Hey YouTube and dog and UFC fans, this is Unger to the Max here. Salute. And it is another UFC pay-per-view tonight. This time it's UFC 227 from Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, pitting the new UFC Bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw against the former UFC Bantamweight champion Cody Garbrant. And that's the main event. And the co-main event is Demetrious Johnson, who has defended the UFC Flyweight belt like 11 times against Henry Cejudo. And those two last met at UFC 197. But as I said, the main event is TJ Dillashaw against Cody Garbrant. These two last met at UFC in the co-main event of UFC 217 at Madison Square Garden. I think it was on November 4th of last year. Michael Bisping again. The main event was Bisping against St. Pierre for the UFC middleweight belt. Joanna Jędrzejczyk against Rose Namajunas was also on that card. But when these two last fought, it was Cody Garbrandt who was the champion and TJ Dillashaw who was the challenger. So the fight started off kind of slow, and then the two started to exchange. And you could see Cody Garbrandt was building up momentum, and actually both fighters were building up momentum, really. And then, pretty much as the bell rang, Cody Garbrandt landed a huge right punch that could have potentially finished the fight if he had landed the punch a few seconds earlier, probably before the bell rang. And at the end of the round, you could see TJ was looking wobbly and did not look like he had the right footing. Somehow in the second round, TJ comes out and blasts Cody with a head kick, and then right in the middle of an exchange later, TJ knocks him out with a punch and becomes the new UFC Bantamweight champion. So now they're going to run it back 10 pay-per-views later in the main event at UFC 227. As for the co-main event, it is Demetrious Johnson against Henry Cejudo. Another rematch. These two last met at UFC 197. And the main event, it was also the co-main event that night. The main event that night was John Jones against Ovince St. Preux for the interim UFC light heavyweight championship. And Demetrious Johnson dispatched Henry Cejudo in 2 minutes 38 seconds. So Johnson found it to be pretty smooth sailing. But the reason I titled this live stream to be UFC 227 tonight, and then after that I wrote, I'm confused. And here's why. If you've seen some of my previous videos in my UFC thoughts and analysis playlist, you'll know that I'm trying to push for the UFC to come back to Cleveland, because it was here for UFC 203, which was Stipe's first title defense against Alistair Overeem in Cleveland. And then after that, UFC 211 was first UFC 205, Alvarez against McGregor, Woodley Thompson, and Jędrzejczyk Kowalkiewicz happened at Madison Square Garden. Then you have UFC 211, Miocic against Dos Santos, and Jędrzejczyk against Andrade at American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. Then you have UFC 217, Bisping against St. Pierre, Garbrant Dillashaw, and what was the last one? Oh, Jędrzejczyk Namajunas at Madison Square Garden. UFC 228. Where's that? When it's Tyron Woodley against Darren Till. And Nico Montano against Valentina Shevchenko. That's going to be in Dallas at American Airlines Center. And then UFC 230. Not sure what the main event for that is going to be yet. But where's that going to take place? Madison Square Garden. So, I don't know why the UFC hasn't come back to Cleveland, but they will have gone to Madison Square Garden 3 times, and they will have gone to Dallas twice since UFC 203. And I know it's a little bit ridiculous to compare Quicken Loans Arena and Cleveland, Ohio to the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden in New York City. But I'm not really comparing them. What I'm saying is, why has the UFC gone back there 3 times, and why have they gone back to Dallas twice, or one more time, 2 times, with UFC 211 and UFC 228, but they've only gone to come to Cleveland once. Granted, it was the UFC's first time ever in Cleveland. That I get. But what my point is why has the UFC not come back to Cleveland yet? Like the Stipe Miocic need to get the UFC heavyweight belt back to bring the UFC Octagon back to Cleveland. Or does Jessica I need to become UFC Flyweight champion to bring the Octagon back? Like, that's the part I'm confused about. How does the UFC decide where an event is going to take place? I don't understand. Like, how did they decide that UFC 227 is going to be at Staples Center in Los Angeles? How did they decide that UFC 228 is going to be in Dallas? And UFC 229, which, in case you didn't hear or been living under a rock, UFC 229 will be Khabib Nurmagomedov against Conor McGregor. That's going to be in Vegas. I have no issues with the UFC going back to Vegas. And then UFC 230 is going to be at Madison Square Garden. So, I just would love to know why how the UFC decides, what city they're going to do an event in. I would love to know that. And I would love to ask Dana White, when are you going to bring the UFC Octagon back to Cleveland? And what will it take to bring the Octagon back to Cleveland? Because I was at UFC 203, and that was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. It was absolutely incredible. And Cleveland absolutely went nuts for it. Granted, I think that was partially because Stipe was the main event and he's from Cleveland. But even for the other fights, Cleveland was going nuts and like going crazy and cheering, and it was amazing. So why isn't the UFC coming back to Cleveland? But going back to the main event for tonight, it is, as I said, it is TJ Dillashaw against Cody Garbrant. And like I said, these two last fought at UFC 217, Madison Square Garden. Bisping against St. Pierre for the UFC middleweight belt. That was the main event. There was also Joanna Jędrzejczyk against Rosie Namajunas for the UFC strawweight belt. St. Pierre beat Bisping, and Namajunas beat Jędrzejczyk. And Dillashaw beat Garbrant. So, all 3 challengers won their fights. But I want to focus on Dillashaw and Garbrant. Or Garbrant Dillashaw, whichever way you want to play it. Tonight, it's Dillashaw Garbrant. At UFC 217, it was Garbrant Dillashaw. And these two don't like each other. because they were sparring partners and boxing partners at when Dillashaw was at Team Alpha Male. And Garbrant is like, loyalty is everything. I love um, Team Alpha Male and this and that. And he's going, it saved my life, which I understand. And then and he's pissed at Dillashaw because TJ Dillashaw left Team Alpha Male and went to a different training camp. He goes, because Cody Garbrant is like, it was straight sellout the way he left, and he lied he lied about it, and like, I just don't understand. I don't totally understand why Cody Garbrant is upset about it, because as TJ Dillashaw has said, fighters change camps all the time. It happens. Why is Cody Garbrant making such a big deal about it? Like, if you watched UFC 173, the first person TJ Dillashaw hugged once he beat Renan Barão for the title was Dwayne Ludwig. And that's who TJ Dillashaw trains with. But what I love about Dillashaw is how the way he moves his feet. It's very impressive. Like, he doesn't like stand in the same spot all the time. He is constantly moving, but at the same time trying to draw you in so he can like absolutely destroy you with his high kick, or get you to throw something so that he can counter. But for some reason, TJ was in the first fight with Cody. What TJ was doing a lot of kicking and like doing a lot of what I would call, or what are they called? Oh, pirouettes. That's what I would call them. Yeah, that's what I would call them, is pirouettes, which is a dance move. But it was like he would kick and then turn all the way around. Whereas what Cody Garbrandt would do early is he would put his foot back, and TJ would step back because he would go, yep, I know it's coming. And Cody would look at him and go, yeah, you know it's the big right hand. TJ pretty much baited him into trying to throw it, although Cody never did until the end of the round, when the referee could have stopped the fight. He could have stopped the fight, but he didn't. Am I upset about that? No, because that was one of the best fights I've ever seen. Excuse me. Oh, Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft are there to watch Randy Moss go into the Hall of Fame. Yeah, it's also NFL Hall of Fame induction tonight. But getting back to the UFC. So Cody Garbrandt doesn't really use kicks at all. He relies on punches. But I think if he wants to beat Dillashaw tonight, he's going to have to use a more diverse skill set. Maybe try and throw in some kicks or something. Mix it up, because you can't just stand right in front of Dillashaw. And then in the co-main event, I don't know how Henry Cejudo is going to beat Demetrious Johnson. Like, the last time these two fought, Cejudo didn't even last a whole round. It was only 2 minutes, 38 seconds. So, I'm not sure. Yes, Henry Cejudo has had 2 more years of experience after, but I don't see what type of difference that's going to make in this fight at all. I really don't. Ooh, nice takedown by Simone. I'm watching the prelims for UFC 227 right now. Here you go. There's Simone trying to get the choke on Jackson. But, whoops, didn't mean to do that. But I will also watch UFC 226. I'm a huge Stipe fan. I don't hate Daniel Cormier's defeat. Congratulations to Cormier for winning that fight. I mean, he earned it. It was a great fight. Saludos. What does that mean? Saludos. I don't know what that means. Is that Spanish or something? But congratulations to Daniel Cormier on becoming the UFC heavyweight champion. If Cejudo beats Demetrious Johnson tonight, somehow, I don't think that'll happen. But if it does happen, I think Cormier becomes the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. I mean, he's holding 2 belts simultaneously. Cormier says he's going to defend both. I don't know how that's going to happen. What is he going to do? One fight at light heavyweight and then do the next fight at heavyweight? I don't understand. And speaking of, like, moving up and down weight classes, TJ Dillashaw and Demetrious Johnson, as I said, are on the same card. But Dillashaw has tried to get, hang on. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. Dillashaw has tried to convince Demetrious Johnson to fight him, not for the Bantamweight belt, for the Flyweight belt. Meaning, TJ would move down from 135 to 125 and challenge Demetrious Johnson for the belt. Which I don't know if DJ, I don't know if Mighty Mouse will ever take that fight. Because he probably thinks in the back of his mind, if he takes that fight, he'll probably lose. So he wants to just fight people in his own division. Which, why not risk it? I mean, he fought Dominic Cruz. Yes, Cruz beat him, but I don't know. I think Demetrious Johnson should take that fight. That's just my personal opinion. But, so, let me give you... So I can tell you, I'm going to go through the history of pay-per-views. So UFC 230, starting with UFC 230. UFC 230 will take place at Madison Square Garden in New York. Don't know what the main event is yet. UFC 229. I believe that will be October 8th in Las Vegas. It will be Khabib Nurmagomedov against Conor McGregor for the UFC lightweight belt. And then UFC 228, American Airlines Center, Dallas, Texas. Oh yeah, UFC 229 will be T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. But UFC 228 at American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. Tyron Woodley against Darren Till for the UFC welterweight belt. Which, this is an interesting matchup because Colby Covington won the interim welterweight belt at UFC 225. However, the UFC stripped him of that, and instead it'll be Darren Till. Here's the problem with this matchup. Darren Till has missed weight every time. Like, in his last fight against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in Liverpool, did Darren Till make the 170 limit? No, he didn't. So, as much as I'm excited for this matchup between Woodley and Till, I'm keeping my excitement on the lower level because I want to wait and see if Till will actually make weight. So, and the co-main event for UFC 228, Ultimate Fighter winner Nico Montano, who became the UFC flyweight champion, will put her belt on the line against Valentina Shevchenko. Shevchenko was a bantamweight. She last fought for the belt against Amanda Nunes at UFC 215 in Edmonton, and thinks she should have gotten the win, but the judges. That's why you never leave a UFC fight up to the judges, because it never works out that way. But anyway, so that's UFC 228. Tonight is UFC 227 from Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. TJ Dillashaw against Cody Garbrant 2. And then the co-main event is Demetrious Johnson against Henry Cejudo. Hang on 1 second. Okay, there we go. Had to take care of something on my TV. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, UFC 226. Stipe Miocic against Daniel Cormier, champion against champion, at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The co-main event was supposed to be Max Holloway against Brian Ortega for the featherweight belt, but that didn't happen because Holloway apparently was experiencing concussion-like symptoms and had to pull out. So instead, the co-main event was Derek Lewis against Francis Ngannou. That was such a blah fight. Neither of them wanted to engage with each other. Ugh, it was so boring. UFC 225 was Whitaker against Romero 2. Although, I think it was still considered a championship fight, but Romero missed weight. Honestly, he should move up to light heavyweight, not stay at middleweight. And then the co-main event for UFC 225 was for the interim welterweight belt. It was Rafael dos Anjos against Colby Covington, and Covington won that. Hola, Ronaldo Soto. Hola. And Covington won that and became the interim. Yes. Okay. And Covington won the interim welterweight belt, but the UFC would later strip him. I'm not sure why. About 28 minutes till the pay-per-view portion of UFC 227 begins. I'm not going to go the full 28 minutes. But next fight's another bantamweight belt. A lot of bantamweight fights on this card tonight. Probably because the main event is for the bantamweight belt. That's just my thought. But UFC 224 from somewhere in Brazil. It was Amanda Nunes against Raquel Pennington for the bantamweight belt, and Nunes won that. Oh yeah, 225, Whitaker kept his belt, and Covington became interim welterweight champion, but was later stripped, as I said. And UFC 226, Cormier beat Miocic to become both the heavyweight champion and the light heavyweight champion. Oh, I agree. I think that's the fight that makes the most sense. Chris Cyborg against Amanda Nunes. I have no idea who would win that fight. Because there's no they haven't been able, the UFC has not been able to really establish the women's featherweight belt division. Most likely because Cyborg is the champion. But, okay, UFC 223 was originally going to be, I think it would be Nunes that wins that. If Cyborg and Nunes were to fight, I think it would be Nunes. But UFC 223 was supposed to be Khabib against Tony Ferguson, which the UFC has tried to make that fight multiple times. And every time something has happened where the fight had to be called off. And it looked like it was going to happen. And I was getting very, very excited about it. And what happens? Tony Ferguson gets injured and the fight gets called off. 4 times it was canceled. Thank you. I appreciate that. Gracias. And the co-main event was Rose Namajunas against Joanna Jędrzejczyk 2. So, Tony Ferguson got pulled from the main event. So, Max Holloway steps up to face Khabib on short notice. Holloway is forced to pull out because he's deemed medically unfit. Ends up Anthony Pettis, but he's quickly removed. And Al Iaquinta steps up and fights Khabib, but Khabib wins it easily. So Khabib becomes UFC lightweight champion, setting up UFC 229, Khabib against Conor McGregor. Although Conor McGregor attacked a bus at UFC 223. Yeah. And then UFC 222, which was supposed to be Holloway against Frankie Edgar, but that Holloway had to pull out of that fight again. So he's had to pull out. Holloway has had to pull out of 3 straight cards that he's been scheduled for. 226, 223, and 222. Because he was supposed to face Frankie Edgar for the featherweight belt. But he had to pull out. So the UFC quickly put together Chris Cyborg against Yana Kunitskaya. And Cyborg easily dispatched him. UFC 221. Oh yeah, I forget where 221 took place. UFC 221 was supposed to be Whitaker against Rockhold for the middleweight belt, but Whitaker was injured, so Romero stepped in and fought Rockhold for the interim middleweight belt, which Romero won, which set up UFC 225. Whitaker Romero 2. Then you had UFC 220. Stipe Miocic against Romero wins what fight? I'm confused. But UFC 220 was Stipe Miocic against Francis Ngannou and Daniel Cormier against Volkan Ozdemir. Both men won, which set up UFC 226. UFC 219 was Chris Cyborg against Holly Holm. UFC 218 was Max Holloway against Jose Aldo 2. Robert Whitaker won both fights. UFC 218 was Holloway Aldo 2. Holloway won that fight. 219 Cyborg Holm. Cyborg won. UFC 220 Miocic and Cormier won. And I already said 221, 222, 223. Okay, so UFC 217. Bisping against St. Pierre. St. Pierre won. Co-main event, Dillashaw Garbrant. Dillashaw, I should say. Dillashaw won. And Jędrzejczyk against Namajunas. Namajunas won. So all 3 belts changed hands that night. UFC 216, Ferguson against Kevin Lee for the interim lightweight belt, which Ferguson won. And then in the co-main event, Demetrious Johnson set the record for the most title defenses when he beat, who did he beat? Who did Demetrious Johnson beat that night at UFC 216? I don't remember. Oh, Ray Borg. And I believe that was the night Demetrious Johnson broke the record. At UFC 215, Amanda Nunes beat Valentina Shevchenko. UFC 214, Cormier Jones 2. Jones won, but was later stripped because apparently John Jones had taken some sort of illegal substance during weigh-ins. Woodley defeated Damian Maia, and Chris Cyborg defeated Tonya Evinger. Let's see, UFC 213, which was originally going to be Nunes Shevchenko 2, but Nunes had to pull out of that because of, what was it? I don't actually remember. Shoot. Oh, yes, I do remember. It was because Nunes had, gotten sick, probably from the weight cut. So 212 was Aldo against Holloway, and Holloway won that. Oh, 213, Whitaker beat Romero. And then 211, Miocic dos Santos 2. Miocic won that, and Jędrzejczyk Andrade, Jędrzejczyk won that. 210, Cormier defeated Anthony Johnson. 209, Woodley defeated Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in a rematch. What was UFC 208? What? Oh, UFC 208 was when they created the UFC Women's Featherweight Division with Jermaine de Randamie against Holly Holm. Jermaine de Randamie won that. They go, hey, do you want to fight Chris Cyborg next? Jermaine de Randamie goes, no, I'm going to relinquish the belt. UFC 207 was Nunes against Rousey and Cruz Garbrant. Nunes won that by punches in 48 seconds, and Garbrant beat Cruz by decision. What was UFC 206? Oh, UFC 206 was Holloway Pettis for the interim. And UFC 205 was Alvarez McGregor, Woodley Thompson, and Jędrzejczyk Kowalkiewicz. McGregor won by knockout. Woodley Thompson was a draw, and Jędrzejczyk defeated Kowalkiewicz by decision. 204, Bisping defeated Dan Henderson by decision. UFC 203, Stipe defeated Overeem by knockout. No, by TKO. UFC 202, McGregor won against Diaz. UFC 201, Woodley knocked out Lawler. UFC 200, Nunes defeated Misha Tate. UFC 199, Michael Bisping defeated Luke Rockhold, and Dominic Cruz defeated Uriah Faber. UFC 198, Stipe Miocic defeated Fabrizio Verdum. UFC 197, Jones defeated Ovin St. Preux, and Johnson defeated Cejudo. 196, Diaz beat McGregor, and Tate defeated Holm. 195, Lawler defeated Condit in a very close welterweight championship fight. 194, McGregor defeated Aldo in 13 seconds. Oh, I skipped 193. Holm defeated Rousey, and Young Jacek defeated whoever it was she was fighting. And 192, Cormier defeated Gustafson. 191, Johnson defeated Johnson. And 190, Rousey defeated Correa. 189, McGregor defeated Mendez. And Lawler beat McDonald. And 188, Cain Velasquez defeated, Verdun defeated Cain Velasquez. And that's all I can remember. So, wow, I actually remembered a lot more. But my predictions for tonight. I think for the main event and co-main event. I think Dillashaw beats Garbrant by head kick in the third round. And I think Johnson beats Cejudo by punches in first round. So those are my predictions. If you like this UFC live stream, punch that like button like a UFC player and punch that subscribe button. For now, enjoy the pay-per-view tonight. I expect it to be a great matchup between Dillashaw and Garbrant and Johnson and Cejudo. I love rematches. And that's going to do it. So, until next time, this is Unger to the Max, signing off. Salute. Go Cavs, go Blue Jackets, go Jaguars, go Browns, and yeah.